Good afternoon. Today we're talking about the laws of Purim. And we're talking about Mishloach Manos, the mitzvah to send 2 food items to a friend on Purim. And we're in Taf Reish Tzadi Hey Dalid, 695-4. Let's start with the Shulchan Aruch. Chayev lishloach lechavero shtei manos. One is required to send 2 items, 2 food items, shtei manos basar or shel minei achalim, 2 items of meat or other food products to a friend on Purim. Shenemar, as it says in the Megillah, Mishloach Manos ish l'rehu, should send items to your friend. Shtei manos li'ish echad, 2 items to one friend. So we know that this mitzvah of Mishloach Manos, that's one of the mitzvahs. The other mitzvah we had was Matanos Lavionim, giving to the poor. So when we give to the poor, we need to give 2 gifts to the poor. When we do Mishloach Manos, that's 2 items to one person. So Mishloach Manos is 2 to 1, and Matanos Lavionim is 1 to 2. V'chol hamarbe lishloach l'rei meshubach. Whoever sends more gifts to his friend is praiseworthy. V'im ein lo, let's say you don't have anything, you're very poor. How do you send Mishloach Manos? Machlef im chavero. Zeh shaleich lezeh sudaso, v'zeh shaleich lezeh sudaso. Kedei l'kaim u'mishloach manos ish l'rehu. What you should do is, if you don't have enough money, you take your meal and you send it to a friend, and your friend takes his meal and sends it to you. So therefore, you fulfill the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos. Says the Ramah, V'yesh lishloach manos b'yom v'lo b'layla. This mitzvah is during the day and not by night. So just like we had the mitzvah of eating the Purim Su'uda, the Purim meal, and the mitzvah of giving gifts to the poor, Matanos Lavionim, those have to be by day. So too, the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos is by day only and not by night. V'im sholech manos l're'ehu v'hu ein rotze l'kablam al mochalo. Let's say you send gifts to your friend and he doesn't want to take it. Or he says, I'm mochel you. What does that mean? The Mishnah Berurah says, he says to you, view it like I took it from you. Yeah, I don't want it. Yeah, just let's say I took it and I really didn't. So do you fulfill your obligation? Yatsa. The Ramah says you fulfill your obligation. Yatsa. However, the Mishnah Berurah says, he says the Pri Chadash argues on the Ramah, and the Chassam Sofer doesn't understand the Ramah. They hold that if you give Mishloach Manos to somebody and he doesn't take it, he doesn't want it, then you don't fulfill your obligation. So on Purim, everyone should take Mishloach Manos for those that give it to them, to not cause an issue. A woman is required to do Matanos Lavionim and Mishloach Manos just like a man is. So a woman also has to give charity to 2 poor people, and also has to give gifts to her friends on Purim, Mishloach Manos. V'isha tishlach le'isha, v'ish le'ish. A woman should send to a woman, and a man should send to a man. Avalo behepech, but not the opposite. Shlo yavo ish l'shloach la'almana, v'yavo lidei safek kedushin. Avo Matanos Lavionim ein lachosh. This is the reason that a man and woman shouldn't send to each other is because perhaps a man will send to a single woman, and people will say that, oh, these must be gifts that he's sending her that represent that they're married, that they're kedushin. What would happen back in the day is that a man would marry a woman and he would send her gifts before and after. So people will say, they'll see this man sending gifts to this single lady, and they'll say, oh wow, she must be married to him, and there'll be an issue of a Safek Kedushin, a questionable marriage. However, we don't have to worry about this Matanos Lavionim. When giving gifts to the poor, there's no issue of worrying that maybe these represent gifts to the marriage. It's only an issue when it comes to Mishloach Manos. Okay, so that was just the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah. Let's start the Mishnah Berurah. I don't think we're going to finish today. We'll learn more about these laws, more details of Mishloach Manos, and we'll see what the Mishnah Berurah Chavetz Chaim has to say. Okay, the Shloach, Yud Ches in the Mishnah Berurah. But Shuvas Binyan Sion, Siman Mem Daled, Nestapek im Hevi be'atzmo, Hamanos va'lo ayidei shliach iyotze, keven dechsev u'mishloach, nemed de'inin dafka ayidei shlichos, ayin sham. So the Mishnah Berurah quotes from the Binyan Sion that he holds, he's actually unsure if one fulfills his obligation of Mishloach Manos if he delivers the Purim baskets on his own. Why? Because the verse says Mishloach Manos, you should send them. So it sounds like you have to send them through a messenger, through an intermediary. So if I want to give Mishloach Manos to my friend George, according to the Binyan Sion, perhaps I shouldn't just give it to George directly, but I should have my friend Joe give it to George. So, lechatchila, initially, a preferred practice is at least some of your Mishloach Manos should be delivered through an intermediary to fulfill this opinion. Because, and again, the reason is because the verse says, Mishloach Manos, it has to be sent. And the Binyan Sion himself is unsure if one even fulfills the obligation if he gives Mishloach Manos by himself. Okay, Mine Achalim, we have to have food. We give food in the Mishloach Manos. V'lo begadim v'sharei dvarim. One does not fulfill the mitzvah of Mishloach Manos by sending food. He does fulfill it by sending food. He does not fulfill it by sending clothing or other nice items. It specifically has to be food. V'hu adin mashke, or drink. The shaper dami, that's allowed. The shtia b'chlal achila. Drinking is considered eating. You could send one food item and one drink, so you could send someone challah and grape juice. It should also be cooked and ready to eat and not raw. The Mishloach Manos haroi miyad la'achila mashma. Mishloach Manos sounds like it has to be fitting to eat. It sounds like it has to be able to be taken out of the box and you can eat it right away. But sending a raw piece of meat that a person has to cook, one should not do that. That should not be done in sending Mishloach Manos. However, some do hold that since it's slaughtered, the meat is kosher, and all you have to do is put it on the stove or on the grill to eat it. That's allowed. So some say that it's not allowed to send raw food, and some say it is allowed to send raw food. So preferably, it seems, one should send cooked food that is ready to be eaten right away. Okay, so let's stop here for today. There's many other laws about Mishloach Manos, so we'll finish those up next week. So today we learned that there's a mitzvah to send on Purim Mishloach Manos, which means 2 food items to one person. Preferably, it should be done through an intermediary, and the food we learned so far should be ready to eat and ready to be enjoyed. Wishing everyone a beautiful day and a very nice Shabbos.